In the burning skies of the Pacific, there was once a plane so untouchable, so fluid in motion, that even the most skilled Allied pilots whispered its name with dread, the Mitsubishi A6M0. It wasn't just a machine, it was Japan's pride, their symbol of dominance, precision, and power. At the height of World War II, this aircraft turned the Japanese Imperial Navy into a force the world had never seen before. The Zero could twist through the clouds with supernatural agility, strike, and vanish, leaving nothing but the fading echo of its engine behind. In 1940, when Japan unveiled the Zero, it was like unveiling the future of air combat. The plane's engineers had built something almost impossible for that era, a lightweight fighter that could fly farther, faster, and maneuver tighter than any Western design. It had a turning radius so sharp that even seasoned American pilots found themselves outmatched within seconds of dogfights. The Zero didn't just dominate the skies, it owned them. But behind this brilliance lay a dangerous illusion, the illusion that supremacy built on elegance could stand forever. The Japanese believed they had reached perfection, and perfection needs no change. They refined the Zero to its limits, but failed to look beyond it. The result? By the time the war dragged into 1943, Japan was still fighting with the same philosophy: craftsmanship over quantity, mastery over mass production. Across the ocean, America was learning. Every loss, every downed pilot, every wrecked Hellcat prototype was feeding an enormous machine of innovation. The U.S. didn't just want to build a plane that could compete. They wanted to build a system that could not fail. That's when the F-6F Hellcat was born. It was not as elegant as the Zero. It didn't have the same mythical agility. But it had something far more powerful: adaptation. It was heavier, stronger, and armed with a philosophy Japan never embraced. Replace precision with resilience, art with arithmetic, and individual mastery with industrial rhythm. When the Hellcat first entered combat in 1943, it was underestimated. Japanese pilots saw it as another clumsy American fighter, big, slow, unrefined. But that illusion didn't last long. The Hellcat was designed not for beauty, but for victory. Its pilots didn't need to dance through the clouds like samurai. They just needed to survive, strike, and return, again and again. The U.S. Navy had transformed air combat into a production line. Every Hellcat that fell was instantly replaced. Every pilot that died was substituted by another, trained through a system that valued uniformity over genius. Japan still relied on aces, men who mastered instinct and intuition. America relied on the system, machines that mastered efficiency and numbers. By mid-1944, the balance had reversed. For every Zero that took off, there were dozens of Hellcats waiting. The sky that once belonged to Japan now thundered with American engines. The same grace that once ruled the Pacific was now being devoured by mechanical precision. The battle was no longer about who had the better pilot. It was about who had the better idea of war. Japan's belief in perfection was poetic, but poetry can't survive against arithmetic. The Hellcat didn't defeat the Zero through brilliance. It defeated it through evolution. It was the world's first true symbol that war had shifted from art to industry, from passion to process. And so, the myth of the Zero began to collapse, not in a single explosion, but slowly, under the weight of something it could never outmaneuver: progress. The skies had changed forever. Where once the German Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs ruled with unchallenged arrogance, the P-47 Thunderbolt had rewritten the laws of air warfare. This was the machine that critics mocked as too heavy and too slow, yet it became the hammer that shattered the Luftwaffe's dominance. Every mission, every dogfight, was now a statement of evolution, a symbol of how discipline and physics could outmatch fear and improvisation. The pilots of the Thunderbolt were no longer just airmen. They were engineers of survival, sculpting victory from velocity itself. German pilots quickly adapted, trying to lure the Thunderbolts into low-altitude traps where speed dives were harder to manage. But by then, the Americans had learned too much. They perfected their boom and zoom attacks, descending like thunder, unleashing fire, then vanishing upward before the enemy could even react. The sky became their chessboard, every maneuver a calculated move of timing, patience, and raw understanding of the machine they commanded. Each flight was a battle not just against the enemy, but against the limits of human endurance. Pilots faced the crushing force of G-pressure, the blackout-inducing dives, and the deafening roar of the R-2800 engine that pushed the Thunderbolt to its extremes. But they trusted it, because they knew this aircraft could take punishment that no other could. Even riddled with bullets, the P-47 could still bring its pilot home, its thick armor and radial engine absorbing damage like a steel-hearted guardian. Operation Argument, known to many as Big Week, marked the ultimate test of this new aerial doctrine. It was the week the Thunderbolt became a legend. Flying deep into Germany, the 56th Fighter Group ripped through enemy defenses, striking factories, convoys, and rail lines. The skies above Bremen, Leipzig, and Regensburg turned into chaos, contrails, smoke, and fire weaving an image of total warfare. Yet through it all, the Thunderbolt reigned supreme, outclimbing, outdiving, and outlasting everything thrown against it. In these fiery days, heroes were forged. Colonel Francis Gabreski, driven by precision and passion, led his men with unmatched ferocity. But fate is cruel even to the fearless. During a low pass over an enemy airfield, his propeller nicked the ground. The mighty Thunderbolt crumpled, and Gabreski was captured, ending his war not in the sky, but behind barbed wire. Still, his legend soared higher than any altitude he'd ever reached. He had already shown what a man and machine could achieve together when both refused to surrender. Robert S. Johnson, another pillar of the Thunderbolt's reign, took a different path, one of discipline and cold logic. He turned air combat into a science, proving that victory wasn't about luck or aggression alone. His philosophy was simple: survive, strike, and never let emotion guide your throttle. That mindset made him one of the top American aces of the war, his record a living testament to method over madness. And then there was Colonel Hubert "Hub" Zemke, the mastermind behind the 56th Fighter Group. Under his command, the Thunderbolt evolved beyond a weapon. It became an ideology. Zemke trained his pilots to think like predators, not duelists. "Don't fight fair," he used to say. "Fight smart." His squadron's results were devastating. Precision kills, minimal losses, and an unbroken streak of dominance that turned the tide of the air war in Europe. By 1945, the message was clear. The P-47 Thunderbolt wasn't just an aircraft. It was proof that innovation and courage could rewrite history. It had started as a machine everyone doubted, but ended as the standard every enemy feared. It changed the rhythm of battle, replacing chivalric dogfights with calculated destruction. The thunder it brought wasn't just from its guns or engines. It was the sound of an era shifting, of old legends fading, and new heroes rising. And when the last missions flew, when the smoke cleared over Europe, the Thunderbolt's echo remained, a roaring reminder that the sky doesn't belong to the fastest or the lightest. It belongs to those who understand its power, who respect its danger, and who master its science. The P-47 didn't just win battles. It changed the very definition of what it meant to fly and what it meant to survive.